everyone. My name is Katie Merrill. I'm the Director of Admissions at Vermont Law School, and welcome. I'm going to go ahead and record this session. And it's recording. I guess Simon's always one step ahead of me. I'm joined here by my colleague, Shirley Crawford and Simon Wilbanks. Simon Wilbanks is in the background. I thought we would be, since we're all panelists, we'll just be working through the chat if you have questions or raise your hands. I'm very, very excited that you're here today. At Vermont Law, we've always been practice ready, even before practice ready became a term. And this is an important aspect of our curriculum and of your experience in law school. So I'm very pleased to have here with me today our South Royalton Legal Clinic. And I am going to just briefly introduce everyone, if you could just do a wave. Our director, Erin Jacobson, our staff attorney, Michelle Donnelly, staff attorney Don Hayes, and student clinician Blake Weinard. Hello everyone. So South Royalton Legal Clinic, this is where we serve Vermonters who can't afford counsel and need assistance. We work in bankruptcy, children's rights, disability, domestic violence, family law, immigration, veterans law. It is, and everyone here knows, this is my favorite part of VLS. This is the gem of our school. There is so many opportunities to learn and gain tools through our South Royalton Legal Clinic. We also refer to it as SRLC. So I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm very happy to introduce one of my favorite people on campus, Erin Jacobson. Erin, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Katie. We love you too, as you know. Hi, everyone. I love seeing you here. I love seeing your faces. And for those of you with cameras off, I'm so happy you're here too. I really, when I look at you all, I'm thinking like, oh, good. Look at all these people who are going to be able to help us with our enormous caseload. We are a very busy law firm. And kind of the ye old term for the kind of legal clinic that we are is a poverty law clinic. We really think of ourselves as like a community law clinic. It's a very active, busy place, and we care a lot about our neighbors, our communities, and social justice. So that's like kind of the framework that is surrounding everything we do. And as Katie mentioned, we have different projects within the big SRLC, within the South Royalton Legal Clinic, and we have 5 attorneys. And we're always growing. We started out just a couple of years ago. I think there were just 3 attorneys, but we're growing. The need is growing, and our response is growing. And we always, each semester, we have about somewhere between, on average, 15 to 20 students helping us. So it really is a fun, dynamic learning environment, and also a place where we're in the community and we're helping a lot of people. And I have to say, we've even managed to do that through COVID, though we are looking very much forward to being back in person and having students in and out of our offices and the phones ringing and meeting with clients, and can't wait to get back to that. But a little bit about the clinic and what you could look forward to should you decide to apply. We generally work with second semester, second year students. So second semester 2Ls and then 3Ls. And you can do the clinic part-time for 6 credits or full-time for 12. We also have a summer clinic. So we really are like a year-round law firm clinic. And as Katie mentioned, we work with veterans, we work with immigrants, and we have a family law program that focuses on a whole range of family law issues and domestic violence cases. So the attorneys who are here in the meeting are going to, who run those programs, can explain a lot more about their individual programs. Don Hayes runs VLAP, which is Veterans Legal Assistance Project, and Michelle Donnelly runs the Family Law Project, and I run the Immigration Project. So while I'm still here blabbing away, I'll start with the Immigration Project, and then I'll hand it off to Michelle. In the Immigration Project, our caseload focuses on what is called humanitarian immigration cases. So those are the cases for people who are seeking asylum, maybe fleeing domestic violence situations, special immigrant juvenile cases, so unaccompanied minors or kids who are need protection because they are living in situations where they've experienced abuse, abandonment, or neglect by one or both of their parents. People who might be eligible for a U visa, which is a crime victims visa, or a trafficking visa, which is a T visa. So it's like that humanitarian immigration realm. And of course, we think we're probably about to get pretty busy. I mean, we'll see what the Biden administration does with immigration reform and any kind of pathways for legal status for folks. But whatever happens, that's probably going to make up a large number of new clients coming in the door. So that's another reason I'm really excited to see your faces. I think we're going to get busy in a good way. Maybe instead of being in defense mode like we have been for the past several years, we're actually going to be busy helping people legalize their status and find some relief and safety in the United States. So we work with people from all over the world. Certainly a lot of Central Americans and Mexicans, as you might imagine, but we've actually represented people from 71 different countries now. Vermont, I think people don't think of Vermont as this really diverse place, but people move to Vermont from all over the world. And Burlington, Vermont has been a refugee resettlement city, I think for 4 decades now. So there's really an established community that's really diverse and makes up a lot of our client base and our community-based work. We work with USCIS, which is the administrative agency. We have cases in immigration court, which is down in Boston, Massachusetts. And so students who work in the clinic in the immigration program you can get a lot of different kinds of experiences, that client-based experience, administrative law, but then also the litigation. It's just a really exciting, dynamic, busy, stressful, but also hopefully Blake, one of our current students, can talk a little bit about also the really positive and heartening parts of working with the people that we work with. It really sustains me every day, and also our students. And it's just it's a fantastic place to be and work. And a lot of that has to do with students like you too. So thanks for being here. I'm really looking forward to you coming in with your energy and your excitement and your curiosity. And with that, I'll hand it over to Michelle to talk about her family law project.
Hi, thank you so much. So my name is Michelle Donnelly, and I run the Family Law Project at the South Royalton Legal Clinic. I am also a VLS alum. So, and I did the clinic when I was a student, and it directly impacted my early legal career and then led me back to the clinic when that was a possibility. So I love the clinic and I love what we do here. The Family Law Project is a pretty busy project. So we have a few different project areas. One area that is, we have a program called the Children First Legal Advocacy Project, where we represent children in domestic, in custody style cases. So those will be divorces, parentages, sometimes adoptions and guardianship cases over in the probate court. And we come into those cases when someone in the case, sometimes one of the parents, or most often the judge, identifies that there's a need for the child's voice to be heard in those cases. And unlike the child protection docket, where the state provides lawyers for children in all of those cases, there's no guaranteed right to counsel. And so we've been filling this hole with this project for 21 years now. The project started in 2000. And so it's a pretty unique situation to be able to come into those divorce or parentage cases and help children's voices be heard in those situations too. Because while they're not subject to abuse, thankfully in those situations, they are subject to just like being stuck in the middle of their parents' litigation. And sometimes we come in and are able to push the case towards resolution because we're able to communicate to the parents, look, this is what your kid really wants. This is what they're asking for. This is what's really important to them in a resolution of this case. And sometimes the parents can hear that and listen. Sometimes they can't hear that. But then at that point, we get to represent the child's voice in court by standing up for them, helping them testify to tell the judge themselves what they want to hear. But representing children comes with just a whole host of really interesting legal issues, how to represent a client with the diminished capacity. There are a lot of ethical issues that are implicated. How do you work with the parents? How do you work with the school? How do you work with the other professionals? How do you gather this information and push it forward? And that, so those cases are really interesting and are a really good opportunity for students to build their skills. And then the other dockets that we have that are really active is we have our domestic violence docket. We do a lot of representation of plaintiffs in relief from abuse order proceedings. Those are those domestic violence protection order hearings. And so we'll come in and try to get that civil legal order that will tell the other party that they need to stay away, they need to limit their contact, they need to conform their behavior to a certain way to promote safety and security for the family. And that is a really active docket. I have been to, so far this month, I've been in court every single Monday for that domestic violence docket. And so for students, it's a really good opportunity to have courtroom appearances because there are just so many hearings that those are a lot of opportunities. And also doing those cases are opportunities for students to really work on their client interviewing skills, to work with a client who needs their story, to tell their story in a way that there's a really quick turnaround time and they're in a really vulnerable position. So it's really high level client interaction work. And then the rest of our docket is just general family law. So we do divorces, we do parentages, we do custody agreements, we work in the probate courts to do guardianships when someone who's not a parent needs to step in temporarily. And so it's just a really diverse, fast-moving practice that will give students the opportunity to work with clients one-on-one and to get into the courtroom. And then I will pass it off to Don.
Hey, everybody. Happy spring. So Don Hayes, I'm also a VLS alum, class of 2010, and I run the Veterans Legal Assistance Project. And it's the Veterans Legal Assistance Project, I think, is more akin to like a general practice program with the client base being Vermont's veterans. There are about 46,000, well, depending on who you look at, there's anywhere from 36,000 to 46,000 veterans in the state of Vermont. We're one of the largest per capita states with veterans. Hold on one second. Thank you. My neighbor was dropping off some flowers, so I apologize for that. So it's great living in a small town, by the way. People just walk in your house and bring you flour. So it's pretty cool. So we do the list of things that we do for veterans specifically. We do VA benefit appeal. So this is a case where a veteran has been denied, veteran has sustained some sort of injury and they've applied for benefits and they've been denied. And now we have to prepare a benefit appeal. And if you like persuasive writing, if you like client interviewing, if you like trying to make a story about a set of facts, VA benefit appeals are the place to do it. It's a chance to, really write persuasively to try to convince a board that you will never see, to advocate for a client's rights. We do discharge upgrades. A discharge upgrade would be a case where a veteran was separated from the military for other than honorable conditions. And, young folks don't necessarily realize, these young service members don't necessarily realize that when they get separated from the military, misconduct or whatever, it has a profound impact on the rest of their lives. They can't hold a federal job. They may not be able to get VA benefits. Huge impact. So doing discharge upgrade work gives us an opportunity to really transform a veteran's life. Being first of all, somebody who's going to listen and advocate. Again, an opportunity to do some great persuasive writing, but also, just a veteran who is separated from the military for other than honorable conditions carries that stigma around for the rest of their lives. So I can tell you, one of the first successful discharge upgrades that we got, it's actually going to make me well up just thinking about it. Delivering the phone call, delivering the good news to the service member that he received a discharge upgrade, and the 10-second pause while he tried to gain his composure to just say thank you was really just a remarkable feeling. So I love that aspect of the work that we do. We also do a lot of bankruptcy work. In private practice, I do a lot of consumer bankruptcy work. And I can tell you, bankruptcy relief is absolutely transformative for folks who are feeling really oppressed with debt. FYI, student loans still not dischargeable under the bankruptcy code. Just throwing that out there. That may change, but for now, not dischargeable. But for veterans who are carrying around a ton of debt, it's incredibly dehumanizing. Getting harassing phone calls, getting letters, things like that. So the ability to offer bankruptcy relief at no cost to a veteran is really remarkable. And by the way, it's a great skill to have. Having some experience with bankruptcy work, there aren't a ton of people that do it. It's a great experience. It's also a great way to work on client interviewing skills because there's a ton of information you have to gather to complete a bankruptcy petition. And it gives you the opportunity to appear in federal court. Because bankruptcy is federal law, you can appear in federal court representing our veterans. We do some simple estate planning. So we'll do wills, we'll do enhanced life estate deeds, we've done some simple trusts, we'll do durable powers of attorney. And those cases are really kind of cool because oftentimes we'll get calls from the VA, from a social worker at the VA, and a veteran is maybe in hospice or whatever and needs some, really last minute emergency estate planning work done. And it's great that we can be a resource and step in. The last thing I want to talk about is a program that we just received a grant for this past year, our Safely Home program. So many of you probably know that there's a foreclosure moratorium in effect. So people cannot be foreclosed upon, in the state and around the country. Well, that moratorium is going to be lifted at some point soon. And I think we're going to see a pretty significant uptick in housing crisis and, in veterans who are facing some sort of imminent risk of losing housing. And it may just not be, the landlord tenant situations. It could be people that, have mortgages, have homes. So the Safely Home program is a program that we will do three things. We're going to do education. We're going to actually go out and educate veterans about the foreclosure process. We're going to educate, veterans as to their rights under the foreclosure process, what they can do by way of modification or whatever. We're going to conduct outreach with veteran service organizations in the state of Vermont to help basically to leverage the network of service organizations that are out there to help identify veterans that might be at housing risk. And then finally, we're going to engage in representation, which is, an opportunity to possibly get into court, but more so, to advocate for the veteran to potentially help save a home. So it's very cool and uplifting work. And again, you almost have to look at the VLAP program as a general practice program that serves Vermont's veterans. But anyway, thrilled to see all of you here on a beautiful day like today. And that is all I have. So Aaron, I will turn it back over to you or to Katie, either one of you.
Thanks, Tom. Katie, I don't know what you want to do next, if you're fielding questions, or maybe we have
Do we
Blake
want
here
to
too.
hear from Blake? Blake, do you want to talk a little bit about your student experience, and then we can field questions? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, I can quickly just speak a little bit. Hi, everyone. I'm Blake. I'm in my last year here at VLS. I got my master's before jumping into the accelerated program, and I'm in the immigration project with Aaron. The clinic for me has been a great experience for me to understand how an office works. Sorry, I'm getting a package dropped off. And wonderful way to work at home, you know.
Is it
And not flowers, unfortunately, no. Clothes though, so fun enough. So one of the main things that the clinic has given me is experience in an office, and obviously specifically a legal office. I came to law school without having any experience outside of working at restaurants as a waitress. So being able to have that dynamic, and especially in the controlled setting of the student clinic, is really great because you don't have that fear that you might have when you're out in the real world in that same kind of, with that same lack of experience. You can kind of get handheld a little bit more and you get a little bit more feedback, which is really beneficial when you go to talk to possible employers later on in life. You can learn from this experience and you can talk to them about what you've learned about yourself and your work ethic.
Can you talk a little bit about the projects you're working on with Erin? And I want to disclose that Blake is one of the students that come to us with environmental, and then you kind of get swayed by a different area of the law. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Blake?
Yeah, definitely. So the master's that I got was the MELP, the Master's of Environmental Law and Policy. But in my 1L year, for some reason, I woke up one day and said, I'm going to do immigration law. So I've, since I was in middle school, I've been on the environmental track, and then I just turned around. So having this outlet to focus more on that has been great, because besides the clinic, the only other immigration you can really get is Erin's immigration law class, which I'm also in. Erin and I see each other all the time. We're best friends. But it's this clinic, especially all the other projects as well, the family law and the veterans law, it's a way for students to step out of the little hub of environmentalism that we're in, which is wonderful, but it can be to the disadvantage of students at times, because when you're so pinpointed on something, you lose sight of the larger aspects of the law. It's the law is fully immersed in each other. No matter what part you're in, you're going to be connected to a different part of the law. So being able to focus on something that's not environmental really gives you that broader perspective. When you go to look at jobs, or you go to look at your career path later on down the line, you have that experience that's a little bit outside of the environmental world, and you can use that to your advantage.
Thank you. Erin, do you want to talk a little bit about the student experience as they move through the clinic, the day-by-day experience? And I'm wondering if it's different for if you're practicing a family law project versus immigration law versus a veteran's case.
Sure. I think there are differences and there's commonalities, right? Like Michelle kind of indicated, the Family Law Project is really has a lot of fast-moving cases with a lot of hearings in the state courts. And then the Immigration Project, we have a lot of long-lasting cases where, like, an asylum case can take years, and we're working this case up from semester to semester, and then we will finally have a hearing. But in that long ongoing case, there could be any number of legal issues that come up for that one client that students will also have to kind of pivot and address. And Blake is a student who's had that kind of case, actually. So I'll talk about that after I just mentioned that the Veterans Project is kind of a combination of both, because the Veterans Project has the administrative law that is also like immigration law. So you're dealing with agencies and bureaucracies, and you're helping people navigate these really complex systems with, and things can be really high stakes for our clients. But at the same time, then Don also has some fast moving cases in the state courts. So we have this kind of combination of cases. And then too, because, we have 5 attorneys and so many students, and we're really all under the same umbrella, sometimes we collaborate on cases. So it's not uncommon for Michelle and I to collaborate on a case for an immigrant juvenile, because those cases involve both family courts and the immigration system. And so we do that too, and we partner students on cases. And so we have different silos, but then it's also really collaborative. But back to my example about Blake and a case that she has this long ongoing asylum case for a family from Venezuela. And one reason it's going on for so long is because of a lot of the immigration restrictions that have come out of the last 4 years. And now we're starting to see that some of those restrictions are lifting, some things are starting to move again. We can't forget all of the delays caused by COVID, but we have this long ongoing asylum case that Blake has been working on since the beginning of the semester. And then just about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Blake and I had to have a quick meeting because all of a sudden there's temporary protected status for Venezuelans. It's a short-term form of relief that for people who might need to be able to stay here for a couple of years, and then the asylum case is ongoing. But Blake had to quickly pivot and work on that part of the same family's case, which is very, very different from an asylum case. And that's just the deal when you work in a busy law office. Your case might start out as one thing, and then it kind of evolves to being something else. Another thing that can happen too, or that opportunities that arise for students. A couple of summers ago, we had, I think it was 4 asylum hearings in 1 week. And one asylum hearing is an incredible amount of work, but we had so much work to do that I essentially just had to hand over one of the cases to a student and just basically be like, you have to handle this. I can't do all of these, go. And she was really nervous. And the case was for a woman who was had been tortured and was fleeing some really horrific family violence. And so the student was very nervous that she wasn't going to be able to effectively work with the client, get the client's story without re-traumatizing the client. And then also there's a lot at stake. She was nervous that she wasn't going to be able to help our client prevail in that case. Well, we got through the week. I was driving home on a Friday from my last hearing. My student's hearing had been on Monday. My student called me and said, guess what? I won my case. She won that asylum case long before I even heard about the decisions for the cases I was working on. So sometimes that happens too. It's like students have to pivot and react and take things on even that they're not sure they're ready for. And then fantastic things can happen. And it's like Blake said, I wouldn't describe it as hand-holding. But we're there to provide that kind of supervision and support. But we also, in the clinic, it's like, here's your chance to take responsibility and initiative for a really important part of a client's life, and go. And it's trial by fire sometimes, and it's really fun and amazing what can come out of that. And it's like Blake mentioned, it's a fantastic opportunity to do that work before you go out and you're applying for jobs and working in the so-called real world. I'm sure Don and Michelle have similar examples to that. I mean, because this is happening all the time in our day-to-day work with our students.
Yeah, and actually the one thing that I think is really cool about the clinic is, I often feel that it's very collaborative with the students, that it's not, we're not just teachers and saying, go do this, go do the grunt work. It's very collaborative. Just today, meeting with the student clinician on a very novel issue that, requires a little bit of statutory interpretation to make an argument on behalf of a veteran. And, he and I were just having a conversation, bouncing ideas off each other. And it feels very, it's both educational, but it's also collaborative. And if you want, an experience where you feel like you are obviously being respected as smart, intelligent people who can make a contribution, but also, that your ideas are valuable and your ideas count, and you can really, make a significant contribution to, the work that we do. Because listen, Michelle, Aaron, and I are brilliant, fantastic, scholarly type people, but we do not know everything. And we really do rely on, the students to take a big part in the cases and to help shape them and to play a role in the strategy and how we, achieve outcomes for our clients. So it's really an opportunity for you to not just do a job, but to become invested in the outcome, to get the satisfaction of, getting having some ownership in how we manage cases. And then when you go on to your next experience, a semester in practice or whatever, you will have had the benefit and the confidence building experience of knowing that you can do good work, and and you have done good work. You have things to put on your resume to show that you can do this stuff. That is all. Michelle, I'm sure you have comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just the overriding theory. Like at the clinic on the first day, and then repeated ad nauseum thereafter. We always tell the students, like, these are your cases. Like, when we say that we're the supervising attorney on it, like, that's really the role that we want to take. We want to be in the background. We want you to be making these decisions. We want you to be making these relationships. And we're there to supervise your work. We're there to read it over, to make sure that it meets, muster so that we can file it. But I often file my students' motions, with a little editing. Today, for example, one of my students is working on a Vermont Supreme Court appeal. So it's a state Supreme Court appeal. And we had a call with our client, and we took on this appeal maybe a month or so ago. Today was the first time I ever spoke to the client because the student has been doing all of it. And then today, like, we just had to, we had like a pretty big decision to make in the case. And so I was like, I should probably be a part of this call since it's my law license, but I barely spoke on the phone. Like, my student did it all. And I just popped in the end and said, okay, so it sounds like we made a decision then. Like, it really is like, you have ownership here. You have the opportunity to be practicing attorneys under our licenses. And we expect, we have high expectations, but then we're also always there. We're always, when we're in the clinic in person, our office manager used to joke that we should get a turnstile into my office because, like, students were in and out so often, and sometimes they'd be like lining up to just check things off with me. And now that we're doing everything on Teams, like, I'm like responding to like little text messages, like constantly just checking in so that we're on the same page of things. But really, our students are our colleagues, and that's our goal, and our highest praise for students when they get, to the midpoint or end of the semester and we do their evaluations, of saying, when I can say, I really started to look at this student like a colleague, because they were doing the work that I would expect out of a young associate. So you can really just, that the real life nature of it, I think, is very cool. It's also super fun because you're coming in to the clinic after you've spent a few years doing the black letter law, like reading the case books and reading, sitting in lectures and trying to learn this thing, the law. And it can feel really far away at times. It can feel really theoretical. It can start to feel almost imaginary, like it's just happening so far above you and so far away. And the clinic can really just bring it back down to earth and ground it. There are definitely students every single semester who are like, I did not understand this concept when I was sitting in my lecture class. I didn't understand what the hearsay rule meant. But now that I'm like preparing for my hearing and like thinking about what my witness is going to say, like I all of a sudden understand hearsay for the first time, or I all of a sudden understand this like complicated rule of civil procedure. Like, why do they make it jurisdiction seem so confusing? It's just what courthouse is going to hear this. So things start to click when you get to do it for real.
Michelle, I know you spend a lot of time in court, and I know at Vermont, students after their first year can spend a summer at the South Royalton Legal Clinic and go to court. What is it like when you send someone that you kind of start at the beginning of the semester, and at the end of the semester, you watch them in a courtroom in front of a judge?
Oh, it's so exciting when students get to do hearings. They're always so excited to come away from their first hearing where they got to say words in front of a judge, make an argument, put on the evidence. It's a really exciting experience for students. And those opportunities are just so great because it's really nerve-wracking. Your first court appearances, you're gonna feel really nervous about, but this is an opportunity to prepare for it with a lot of support and a lot of time to get ready and then like a lot of feedback, because afterwards we'll be able to sit down and talk about how it went and what we might do different next time. I had a student once, was able to do, they were a full-time student, so they had a pretty heavy caseload. And so they were able to do a couple of hearings towards the end of the semester, and to see them improve from the first one to the second one, where they're like, oh, I don't really like the way that that evidence came in. I feel like the way that I asked my questions was in a jumbled order. I want to take a different tact at it next time, and then get them to see for themselves, like to problem solve it and work it better. It's a really rewarding experience to see students go through, and it's really exciting.
So can you see how these peeps are my favorite? Do not tell the EAC that.
Hey,
So
Katie,
yeah,
can I ask Blake a question?
yes.
So Blake, just curious from a student perspective, how you felt your confidence grow over the course of the semester. So coming in, the start of the semester, not really knowing, what to do. And then as the semester progresses, how you feel your confidence just growing over the course of the semester.
Definitely. Imposter syndrome is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It will happen to you, happens to all of us. But the South Royalton Legal Clinic has really helped suppress that, because the clinicians, almost every meeting I've had with a client so far, the supervising attorney has just been like, you're good to handle it on yourself, right? And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. You're saying I'm fine, I'm fine. So it is a little bit of trial by fire, like Erin said, but it's does wonders for your confidence. I've sent things to Erin that she sent back, and then she's like, would you mind teaching this to the class when we have a class? I'm like, oh, okay. So there's so many opportunities to learn and to teach, and it's just a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Blake. And everyone, Blake's from Florida too. So she survived the winters in Vermont. That's just a side note. Do you all have any questions? Interested in application? Erin, do you want to talk about how you can be part of the South Royalton Legal Clinic?
Sure. So every clinic on campus, not just the South Royalton Legal Clinic, but all the clinics, ask that you complete what is called the common application. And the common application asks for you to submit a cover letter, just explaining your interests and your transcript. And then also you get to choose. So you can list your first to, I believe, fourth choices of what clinic you want to enroll in, or which project within which clinic and which semester. So, the process is really about you thinking about where you're headed in terms of like your law school career, but also your future legal career. And then we often interview students to just kind of try to flesh that out a little bit. Think about like, what are your goals? Why do you want to come to this clinic right now? What are you hoping to learn at this point in time? And then that comes up again once you're enrolled in the clinic. We ask every student to sign what's called a learning contract. And again, that's just about developing an understanding where your interests lie, what skills you hope to develop, and then two, it gives you it can give you a good sequence of what you might want to do next. So we love in the clinic when students have that good foundation from the classroom, and then maybe they've done an internship or something, some kind of life experience. Then they do the clinic, and then you go out in the real world and you might do an externship for a semester. And then eventually, you're talking about taking the bar and employment. And I do just want to note while I'm talking about employment that I've been an employer. Before I came to the clinic, I worked at a nonprofit immigration office. And I can tell you that every single time we were hiring, I wanted to see the student's transcript, not because I was so concerned to see, I'm going to only interview the students with the 4.0s and who did law review or moot court competitions. I want to see, did you do a clinic? And I want to talk to you about what you learned in the clinic and your arc of learning. And that's something that we care about a lot in the clinic, is that arc, like where you start and the work that you put into it and where you end up. And that's what we are there to help support. But that process and that thinking starts like at application time. And it carries through the semester and then even beyond. We're a really, really good resource for if you need career advice, or all of us, I think this is true across all of the clinics, but I know Dawn and Michelle and the other attorneys in the clinic and we love to field questions from our alums who are out in the field working, but they're newbies, they're new in an employment situation, and they're like, oh, expletive. I have a hearing tomorrow. I have no idea what to do. Help. I love that. I love hearing from those former students who are like out in the real world doing the work and they're checking in with us. And we love to write letters of recommendation and look over resumes. And so it really is like a whole arc of your schooling to your career. And we're just kind of here to support that and watch it. And we love our jobs.
So I don't know, does anybody have any questions? Oh, can anyone speak about the VIA's project partnership with NESTT? What does that look like?
That would be me speaking to that. So just so everyone knows of these acronyms, and boy, do I love to talk in acronyms because that's how immigration lawyers talk. But VIA is the immigration clinic. It's Vermont Immigrant Assistance. And NEST is New England Survivors of Torture and Trauma. And we are the legal arm of NEST. And NEST is, in addition to the legal arm, they have social work and psychology out of the social work and psychology departments at UVM. So we, as a group, can provide holistic services for our torture survivor clients. That would primarily be people seeking asylum. And through NEST, that means that our clients that we're helping with their asylum cases can get therapy, but also we might get a forensic evaluation from the psychologists, and they get social work support. So it's a holistic wraparound service, plus we get the forensic eval that helps support the asylum case itself. And Dante's nodding, so it sounds like you know something about this. You look like you're with me here.
No, I just appreciate you sharing. I think it's a really cool partnership that I haven't heard of or thought of before.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, it is good. It's a really great partnership. I feel really lucky that we have that resource for our clients.
Erin, when you see these students move on, is there any particular students that you're so proud of that it's kind of turned where now you call them and you say, hey, what's going on with this case? Or Michelle or Dawn, where you see students like.
I called one of my former clinicians a couple weeks ago because something blew up in one of my cases and it actually involved some New Hampshire stuff. And I don't practice in New Hampshire, but my former clinician works for New Hampshire Legal Aid. So I called her up and I was like, hey, can you talk me through how this works in New Hampshire? And she was able to collaborate with me and Meg and one of the students, and like all four of us were on a call together. And it was really cool to see some of our clinicians start to become our colleagues. It's a really exciting time when that happens.
I check in with a bunch of my students. I mean, oftentimes it's nothing so serious. It could just be like, text banter. I did just recently hear from a student who was with the clinic for, I think she spent 2 semesters with us. And she's down in Atlanta now doing some immigration work, but she herself just became a US citizen. So I've been following her like citizenship naturalization process, and she just texted me the other day to say she was a US citizen, and she was filling out bar applications and thinking about jobs. And so yeah, I mean, we're always kind of hearing from and checking in on students, and it's like we have this kind of extended family out there. It's great, it's fun.
Do you want me to offer a story too?
Yes, I was going to just say, I was like looking for Dawn.
I don't have to, but actually, it's interesting because, we do stay in touch. As Aaron Michelle said, we do stay in touch. I mean, it's not just the writing letters of recommendation or, leaning on them when they get out and practice, but there's also an element of partnership. Somebody works at the clinic and they gain an interest in the subject matter that we're covering in the clinic, they kind of become, another advocate for us out in the community. And a great example of that, I just had a meeting. I don't even know what today is, but let's say today is Tuesday. So maybe last week at some point, I had a meeting with a student and a criminal law justice outreach coordinator for the VA, and we have a former student that is working for a criminal law firm in Vermont. And he came to me with an idea. It seemed like something that the VA, their justice outreach person, might be interested in. We had a Zoom conference on it, and next thing you know, we're going to be launching like a little program to help divert domestic violence people into a VA specific rehab program. And it only happened, the student, it only occurred to him because he had done work with the veterans, and it's a population that he cares about, and saw the opportunity and knew that I might be able to help facilitate. So it really becomes, I mean, I think, and Michelle and Aaron, I hope would agree that we look at, we form great relationships with the students, and, it's always sad to see you go and be cast out in the world. But we also hope that your experience is valuable enough that you not just consider us to be a constant resource, but you consider us to be, potentially a source for partnership or whatever when you get out in the working world. In other words, you form, a special bond with the groups that we advocate for, and hopefully that's something that you carry with you through your career. We're willing to help you, and we certainly appreciate the degree to which you're willing to help us, by help us do the work that we do by always kind of keeping us in your mind as you go out in the world and make all kinds of ridiculous money and solve all sorts of problems. And just remember us, the lowly staff attorneys back here in South Royalton, schlepping away. Anyway, no, I think it's great, and we have a really solid network. The clinic has been around since the 70s. There are a lot of attorneys. If you take a poll of the attorneys who are practicing in Vermont, you'll find many of them, got their start at the South Royalton Legal Clinic. If you go out in the world and you talk to attorneys who are from Vermont, from the law school, you will find that many of them, got their first experiences at the South Royalton Legal Clinic. So if you join the clinic, come to VLS, you join the clinic, you are joining, a really great group of people that, it's almost like a secret word, a code word. You mention the South Royalton Legal Clinic to another practicing attorney, and you'll spend the next hour and a half on the phone telling stories about your experiences at the South Royalton Legal Clinic. It's a really cool, group to be a part of throughout the rest of your career. Again, that is all.
That's so wonderful. It makes me think of Rachel in Hawaii and her practicing at the South Royalton Legal Clinic, and she does legal aid now, and just amazing. And she's barred in Vermont, New Mexico, Hawaii, just an amazing human. So I know we have a lot of admitted students on this call, and Erin, Michelle, Dawn, can you offer them some advice? Because they're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm starting law school, and you all were there. Can you offer a little bit of advice about maybe what to do this summer and what to kind of think about their first year?
Well, my first piece of advice for this summer is go swimming and have fun. Enjoy the great outdoors. Soon you'll be inside a lot when you're in law school, in classrooms, and you'll be reading a lot of case books, and you'll be underlining things with red pens and taking careful notes and learning to outline. No, I would just say to that, think about like the big picture, what is drawing you to law school, but don't worry too much about like if your path veers you off a little bit. When I went to law school, I thought I was going to be a public defender. I ended up falling in love with immigration law. I know those aren't like two totally different things, but like Blake thought she was going to become an environmental lawyer, and now I'm doing everything in my power to make sure she's an immigration lawyer, because I want to continue working with Blake. No, I mean, you be open to whatever excites you and makes you think that you can find this kind of like purpose-driven life, but also that things change and you have to be open to that. And then the last thing is, don't let the first year get you down. It's not the most fun year of all the years of law school. It's hard. It can be a little bit mind-blowing. I mean, I remember getting into my first few weeks of the legal writing class and thinking, I thought I was a good writer. I thought I knew how to do this. So it can be humbling, but that's okay too, because then over the course of a few years, you get to kind of hone your skills and narrow down your choices into what really excites you. And the first year is just something you kind of have to get through.
Michelle, Dawn, who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Michelle. You always have pithy words of wisdom.
Oh, I don't know if I have any pithy words of wisdom. The decision to go to law school is huge. It's an exciting decision. It's an exciting time in your life. And Aaron is right. The first year, I think, is the hardest year far and away. And like every year of law school for me got better. Like my favorite year of law school was my third year of law school, because that's when I was doing my most practice ready things, because I was finally ready to become a lawyer. And I finally realized, I was comforted by the idea that I actually still wanted to become a lawyer at the end of all of that. The thing that helped me the most when I was a law student was having something that could take my mind completely off of law school. And so I learned how to play the banjo while I was in law school, because it was hard enough that I couldn't think about my classes. I couldn't think about my homework. I couldn't panic and worry about whether my outlines were good enough while I was doing that. And so it was like the mental break that I needed. If I went for a run, while helpful, I would still think about like my outline the whole time that I was exercising. So I found the thing that could take my mind off of law school, and that was really important for me too. Law school is important, and it's hard, and it's rewarding, and it's amazing, but it's not going to be your whole self. And you have to keep that in mind when you go into it, and you might have to remember it a few times while you're there in law school, is that it's not your whole self.
And the only thing I would offer, and Michelle and I actually have formed a bluegrass band. No, we have not. But banjo is a great way to get some relief. But I think the one, looking back on it, I kind of wish that I had contextualized the law a little bit more. I think when you go into law school, your first year, you're going to be learning all these new concepts and all these weird things. And it's, you're going to be reading cases, and, it's hard sometimes to really see the law. And if you take the time to sort of contextualize the law, make it come to life, which is, by the way, an experience you'll get at the clinic. You'll get to see the law sort of come to life, and there'll be a lot of, light bulbs going off. But, I think it's important to understand how the law operates to resolve conflicts. It's not just a matter of, sitting down and trying to memorize black letter law. It's understanding how the black letter law kind of is the way it is. So it's maybe not, my word of advice is not necessarily, while taking up banjo is certainly a great thing, it's maybe a little bit more practical in the sense that, when you're going through, just don't be afraid to find those anchors in the real world, where the law really plays out, and make it come to life for yourself. It's going to make it a lot easier to remember, and it's going to make it a lot more, powerful, for you as you work through that first year. And believe me, once you get through the first year, not to say the law school is a cakewalk, but it's a rite of passage. And when you finish that last final, your first year of law school, and you put that pencil down, and you just have that wash of like, holy crap, I don't have anything to do. Enjoy it, savor that time because it goes by so quick. But you'll all get through it. And I hope to see you on campus. We'll be hopefully in person next fall. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you here in South Royalton.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Erin, Michelle, and Dawn. I really appreciate you taking the time. And Blake, I so appreciate you taking the time. And thank you to all of the students that joined us today. I hope you do come to campus. I don't know when we'll be open for visits. I'm kind of trying, but I don't know. Right now we're closed, but you'll be the first to know when I can have visitors on campus. But just come visit us virtually. Thank you so much. Take good care. Thank you, Erin, again. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Blake. Bye. Take good care.
Thanks, Katie.
Oh, you're welcome.